sick man.
The sick man, yeah, of course. It's very romantic. It's like Spitzweg, you know?
Just last night, I saw a bar pianist playing in the hotel where I'm staying, and I realized I still see so much of myself in these kinds of musicians. And Brahms was playing in bordellos in his native Hamburg already when he was a young teenager, and I believe that gave him a certain humility. Some modesty about what music should be, the idea that music should be fun, the idea that when you share music, it's the act of communication. And so in a way, his modesty, I think, is what stopped him from saying, I am the future of music, I am a revolutionary. I think he was more in touch with how music exists here in the world and how an average person might consume it. He had the entertainer's instinct.
Haydn is dead, Mozart is dead, Beethoven is dead, the whole world is changing, Napoleon murdered the half of Europe, and now we talk about the era of romantic. What the heck is that?
If I had to pick one word that describes the romantic era of music for me, it's the word tension. This is what became the focus of art throughout the 19th century, was how do we get closer to the idea of what's in people's minds. You know, by the end of the 19th century, you had an entire science invented by Freud called psychotherapy to exactly start digging into the psyches of people. But the writers and the painters, and I would say especially the composers, they were already exploring it before Freud tried to turn it into a real science. It existed in art. Let me try to give a little example of the way that tension started to get more complicated in the Romantic era. Mozart, before he died, wrote a lot of music. Let's pick one of his most famous pieces, Eine kleine Nachtmusik. I think this is written in late 1780s. This is the motif that we all know. It's unison, it announces everything that's about to come in the piece. So we have very clearly sketched out to the listener, this is home. You know where you are. This is where we're going, and we're going to come back home. There is no ambiguity here. Now let's fast forward to 1850s, I think. In the 1850s, Franz Liszt composes a piano sonata. And here we have gotten to the apex of ambiguity. What's going on? I have no idea. Yeah, that's weird. So what information have we really gotten here? Not much. It's an atmosphere, it's mystery, it's ambiguity. You can get lost in it. You don't know what's coming. It's suspenseful. You're scared, you're confused. It's wonderful. Now, I just also want to point out that this piece is in B minor, okay? And you remember Mozart and Beethoven, they were very clear about starting on the key, you know? So this is B minor. Get that into your mind, okay? Imagine you're about to hear a piece in B minor. how it begins. We are so far from B minor here. This is the discovery of the fact that the individual is allowed to dream beyond maybe his preordained station. A very important part of the 19th century is that everything the artists were doing got picked up by Freud and he turned it into a science. But I think it was the artists who really went in deep first and looked into their own subconscious for much more honest depictions of contradictory human feelings, including very dark feelings and also very ecstatic feelings.
The Romantic era is the era of the outside of the world, of politics, of real struggle of human beings. And on the other hand, it seems to be an era of the inside. How do we solve this contradiction?
Well, you don't solve it, you need both. I mean, you need the monumental in Romanticism because it's Berlioz who's reinventing the orchestra and suddenly saying, why not have 100 people? We always had 50, let's have 100. Let's try for a brass band sitting in the stairs over there. That's, you know, and the idea of just for the sake of size and ambition, see how far you could push things. So this was happening politically and in the concert hall. But then you have the miniature side, maybe even some would say the feminine side. Young girls learning to play beautiful pieces by Chopin and Mendelssohn, and my fantasies about wishing I was a piano teacher in this era, and playing in salons. At the same time, you have piano battles happening where someone would invite Liszt, and I forget if it was Thalberg or one of these guys, and they kind of pumped it up as if it was going to be like Biggie versus Tupac, the ultimate battle, and who knows what actually happened, but people had a need for this drama and for the artists to be larger than life. There was kind of a demand for celebrity for the first time, and the smart people were ones who could fill the void of celebrity, but back it up with real musical genius. You need the monumental and the megalomaniacs and the, like you said, Wagner has, he's trying to live it. He's trying to really live what he's talking about, which is life or death. Everything is life or death. Opera is life or death. And here I am on the barricades of Dresden with a hand grenade,
But it's pretentious very often as well, because it was never really about life and death. Is that in your life as a genius artist, a romantic artist in modern times the same, that you have to be pretentious, that you have to seem bigger than life, but in reality, come on, you are not endangered whatsoever.
Why do you think I call myself a musical genius? I mean, if you really ask me honestly if I believe I'm a musical genius, the answer is no. But I wanted to preempt this discussion about what a genius is by just, I remember the first few times I kind of tested it out and people just said, you can't say that. And right away that attracts me. It's a sort of counterintuitive oppositional spirit that for me means, okay, in 2014 it means something different. But back then it was more than pretentious. It was a way of escaping oneself.
Right.
And I truly believe that Richard Wagner was a very psychologically disturbed person who we would diagnose as a sociopath today, clearly, in his treatment of just human beings in his private life, as well as what he presented to the world in his writings and his music. And so, what would Wagner be if he came out in 2014? He would be probably a film director, I suppose. Probably he would want to direct movies, and it's the closest he could get to his complete artwork. Or he would be in jail.
He was already then, yeah.
Yes,
probably he would.
That's true. I look at someone like Kanye West today as the equivalent of Wagner, because musically he's as important for his genre of music, but he makes a point of, in a way, being proud of how difficult and just being an asshole.
They all were assholes.
And
they all were assholes. Come on. I mean, Verdi, who tortured his farmers.
Yes, but look how many affairs Wagner had with other people's wives. And Brahms couldn't even bring himself to touch Clara Schumann.
It's the same problem, basically.
Yes, but it's directed inward. Okay, and the point is Brahms directed the psychotic energy that all artists have inward, and it came out in his music for the most part, and he tried to do no harm, so to speak, and he did not become overly obsessed with his position and how he would be remembered. He kept the music ahead of ego to a certain extent. And Wagner let himself go and believed that the power over other people was real power, and therefore inflicted it on the world. And lived in a fantasy world, with his silk underwear and the silk curtains, and he didn't want to admit that he was just a regular human being on earth who has to wear clothes and control himself when he finds himself with another man's wife. I mean, just the basic things of being an okay human being. He just didn't want to admit them.
So let's stop talking and get addicted to the music again. And you show us something about the macrocosms and microcosms of the world, of the people, and of music, perhaps. So let's go to the piano.
Right.
Cool.
What Wagner started was finished by Gustav Mahler. He represents, for many people, the end of Romanticism. I mean, there is some irony in the fact that Mahler was a Jew who kind of reclaimed Wagnerism in a way. And so I think he's a fitting end to this era. With the Kaiser Quartet, we're going to attempt to do our own version of the Adagietto from the Fifth Symphony.